guys, welcome to Red Line. I'm here with Rock Iliriana, and we have a special guest today. Her name is Ina Qema. She's a family and a marriage therapist.
Yes.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome,
It's nice to
welcome.
be here.
Nice.
I
to
just
have
want
you.
very excited for you to be
to
here.
say, we have no marriage problem. We just want to have a marriage counselor here today.
Upfront.
Yeah, this is
So,
not a counseling
we are
session.
newlyweds, so it's okay.
But every newlywed should have at least some advice about marriage.
Right, it's recommended before.
Exactly.
Yes, that's what we're doing. So I'm
Yes.
thinking ahead. Just so welcome to the show.
Thank
You for coming. Before we get into your professional background, let's learn a little bit about who you are. Tell us where you're from. I know you're from Albania originally.
Right. So I am from Albania, born and raised in Durrës.
Okay.
I have moved to New York when I was 17 years old, came as a student, and then launched my career here, had a family, got married with 2 kids.
Oh wow. Okay.
Have a traditional family, me and my husband, we live with his mom and the kids, and that has taught me a lot of things. And this is it.
Is it a traditional Albanian relationship, or you kind of go out of the traditions?
Yes.
All right.
It is a mix of those. And at the beginning, it was really funny because my husband would be like, well, we were in America whenever it was suitable for him. And at other sides, be like, no, we don't do this. We're Albanians.
So he picked the Jews.
Yes.
He's got to make excuses sometimes, a little bit.
And your husband's from the same town?
No, actually, he's from Kukas,
Kukas, okay.
but still from
Okay.
Albania.
Yeah.
Oh, my region of Albania. Nice. All right. What made you get into what you're doing now? What was your idea? I'm gonna start counseling and helping people with marriage,
Right.
or what made you want to do that?
It's a great question because I never knew I was going to become this. Since when I was very young, maybe coming from the family that I was raised on with my mom and dad, they had their own problems in relationship. But also in Albania at the time I was growing up, it was also the man perspective. You should do whatever they say, or the guys, I would see them and bet to get one girl for a beer. And surrounding my friends, I never wanted to be in a relationship, but also was very interested of guiding them. And I had a lot of guy friends, and things that I would hear from them would be like, how can you possibly do that?
Right.
And then coming here, I never knew. I knew I was going to be in public health somehow. I worked for a Department of Health for 7 years. And as I had my daughter, she was only 3 months old, we were strolling around the neighborhood. And then around the college, they had a college week interview about what the programs were having there. And I said, marriage and family therapy, interesting. And Department of Health was waiting for me with that 6 months leave of the maternity. And that 7 years of that work went to garbage in 1 second of just seeing marriage and family therapy. It just was an alignment, a call. It was just
a
right
calling
there and
for
there.
you.
Everybody's like, are you sure? Where did this come from? It's already signed up, already had the interview. They already called me within an hour. And it was just a fit.
Perfect.
So how long ago was this when you started this journey?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay.
Wow.
Wow. So in those 6 years, you have probably heard and seen a lot based on all different types of relationships. Like you said, you have a traditional family where you
Right.
live with your in-laws. So that itself of your own experience and journey was probably
Very helpful.
that was not only helpful, but that was your main foundation for you to
Yeah.
guide other family members.
It was something very helpful to me, but also challenging to see different perspectives. Things that I
Right.
said I'd never do or say or be, you would be all of this for the sake of the relationships based on the communication. And there are a lot of immigrants, especially in New York. And to me, I'm very privileged to work as a therapist in New York because you see a lot of backgrounds, different people, different cultures. And you find out that it's not only us.
Right.
Because we were raised, or when I came to New York, at least it was only the Albanians, only the Albanians. The whole world had the same problems, relationships, mother-in-laws, families.
Right, a lot of
husbands.
people love to say, "Oh, the Albanians think this
The
way,"
Albanians, yes.
and it's not. Because even
It's
when I
not.
talk to my friends, they have the same,
Yeah.
issues and problems that we do. So it's more of just a relationship
Yeah.
struggles that individuals
Right.
are
And
facing.
as my own experience raised me a lot, hearing a lot of other people's experiences or seeing in a small room, 5 people talking about the same thing or being part of their family dynamic, it taught me a lot. It grew me a
Right.
lot. Like I would help my clients, but they also would help me
Help you.
because at a young age where I started, like I was just like talking the talk, but not walking the walk. And that kind of like helped me merge into like, okay, I can not only talk the talk, but I also have to do that walk.
Right.
Well,
So, sorry, you have other clients that are different cultures, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see a similarity between, like, do you see like similarity in the problems that they're facing for different cultures across the board, or specific to Albanian cultures only?
There's a lot of commonalities across that. At the beginning, that was the target for me to find out like, oh, how similar or different are we from other cultures? And apparently, like, we're very similar. To us, we just don't have the resources of mental health or coping mechanism or the support in the society. We think we're supporting each other, but we're not. And the most
Okay.
people that I've seen support each other are people from Kosovo. They have a different support system, like really support. The Albanians
the
from
family
Albania,
support, you
right?
mean?
But also the friends, the extended
Right.
resources. But also we don't believe in our resources. I have done work in Albania for like 2 years because like being involved in this work, that was like my heart is like going back to Albania and like we're so great. We just need to figure out the communication, the relationships.
Yeah.
A lot of things are happening back home. And when I went there, I realized like that a lot of people are very superficial. They don't even know
That's
themselves.
what we
that-
talked about in our last
At the last
episode,
episode.
and I'm
That.
like, I can't
Yeah.
stand it.
But it's true, right? Like, and what I had to offer with my idea, it was none of that. Like, we really need the basic lines of like, what is family? What is a person? Like, what is the dynamic in between? Why do we get married? And all the professionals are in there, but people don't believe in them.
I have found like many conflict and issues that happen in relationships is because one of the parties or both parties are insecure of themselves.
Right.
And because they're insecure of themselves, they then project that to the other individual. And that's when all the misunderstandings happen. That's when the arguments happen. And then because they're both now insecure or became insecure because of the other person, they're having difficulty in communicating and trying to find a resolution.
Right. It's that and also like managing the emotions. We are a sandwich generation in Albania where we live in the same household with our parents. And that doesn't let us get to know ourselves. How do we want to do things
that's a
in
fair
life?
point.
Like, what do we like? What is the partner we want to grow with? Most of the part of we building our own life is getting the validation from our parents. Like, you've done this, you got a great wife, you got a great husband, but
Right.
nothing for ourselves. Or like often we hear like, even in Albanians in New York, is like, well, I want a wife or a husband that my family would like. It's like, okay, but what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Right.
It's funny because I had a conversation within myself recently. I'm like, I'm always trying to find somebody that my parents will like, my family will like. And I'm like, I think it's time for me to find somebody that I like, you know? And it's hard because now it's like maybe what you like is completely different than what your family likes. And you're like, how do you even introduce this, you know, to your parents and to your family? And I think it's a very difficult thing to do, to find people that are kind of synced with you in the same connection and same energy, it's hard to find that. And I think for people like for me that are single, it's different. You guys are all married on the panel. So I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you find the luck in it. But for me, sometimes I just feel like it's a very unlucky, hard thing, especially this day and age, to find the right people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that goes to the fact that you said it's more of a superficial thing now, where people are trying to find these relationships that are just good on paper, like good on social
Yeah.
media, and promote certain things, and they're not really like loving each other. You know, nobody's
Yeah.
really like finding why they love each other. It's more, all right, we're just gonna go party here, we're gonna post a picture here, we're gonna do this, and this is their relationship.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like that's more of what's happening now, or is there still like an old fashioned way of how can I say it, of keeping this tradition alive, where okay, you know, we used to go find
The
a wife.
matchmaking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were literally like back in the
Arranged
day.
marriages.
Just send the scores and like,
Yeah, back in the day, it used to be.
this is a good wife for you. This is a
Yeah.
good husband for you. The families know each
yeah,
other.
we're gonna go drink a coffee.
Okay, guys, whatever you say, and the guy just sits there.
But
It
you
makes
think-
you happy. Just leave me alone.
But does this cause a issue now for the new generation of Albanians, because we come from a culture where everything was kind of
was
Laid out
much
for you.
simpler
laid
back
out
then.
for you and more. Do you think this is why now maybe you're seeing more problems in Albanian?
Right.
Or
culture
is it
region?
that people are now talking about their problems and back, the previous generations, they might just be holding in their issues.
Right.
You know,
It is a
it's
lot of
just
things,
interesting
right?
to
But
think
it's
about.
a reflection of history. Let's start with that because I'm sure you have heard a lot of times like, well, this new generation. Know that our generation, like this new line of like new marriages, the young adults, even in Albania, even in America, wherever they are in the world, they really are trying to break barriers. They're trying to find themselves. They're really trying to grow and see from a different lens or perspective. Like if you look back, it's always related to the history. Now it takes a lot of courage for you as a single man to go to your family and say, you know what, guys, I love you, I appreciate you, but this is who I am. And you bring in that piece of yourself to them, it's really hard. Imagine now having someone else on board that comes with different values, morals, expectations, and you're like, maybe you're not for my family. But have you asked yourself if she's for you? Right. And a lot of parts is that when my mom or dad were married, or my mother-in-law, like their marriage, or like, like the older generation, there was a framework. It's not about the tradition. Like we have made it part of the tradition, but it's the framework. The society just gave you like, this is how you do it. Step 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the benefit of politics, religion, communities.
But it was also a
the
different
well-being,
time too, right? You look at the
because
time.
because it was like the sense of the community. How do we
Right.
grow Albania? It was like mostly like a political perspective. So we were used to that. And when we had our freedom to build our own families, it was just given. It's the same thing to like give freedom to someone who's been in the prison for like 20 years. It's like what we will do with that. And our parents were in between that structured to kind of like making a little bit wavy. And we heard all of their problems, all of their behind the doors, right? Like, as we say, like in front, we're very superficial. We as kids, we heard all of back, like the closed doors conversations. And we said, we're never going to be that, or we're going to take revenge for mom and dad. And now we are here today. We want to complete the part of them that it's missing to them, or we feel like we should complete it for them because we want to make them happy. But we forget ourselves. And then we have this confusion within ourselves that like, but I want to be me. And we forget that the family of origin, it ends there. That's why it's called in therapy, family of origin. It's not something you create. Your priority when you think to create a family, it's the family you create, the values you take within you, what you want to grow out of it. And it takes a lot of courage to do that because we are very close with our families and we don't want to disappoint them. The expectations. I know a lot of cases where the bride has come in the house, but over the years, since the child was like 10 years old, that mother has raised expectation. Not only the mother, but the society around the mother is like, lucky you have a son. The bride is going to come and you're going to like teach her and ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. The bride comes, 25, 30 years old lady. She is complete. She doesn't need someone to teach her. And now it's disappointing for the mother-in-law that like, no, you were supposed to be this way.
You're supposed to learn from me.
Yeah, but you're not this way. So it's like a lot of like history, patterns, courage,
Back in
not
the day, they were
accepting.
getting married
Yeah.
really young. So the mother-in-laws were molding their new
Right.
bride in the house versus now they're getting married a lot older. So they're coming with their set ways and their beliefs. And a lot of the people, may it be like the bride or the groom, are coming into now their in-laws' home with a ready like set foundation and
Right.
values and principles that they
Matured,
came with.
yeah.
They're more
They
mature.
know what they want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important. What Rock said is like finding someone that he is looking for. So when you know who you're looking for, when you find that person, I feel like a lot of the communication is already on the right foot and you're just going to have a better relationship.
Right. Yeah.
But okay, so here's where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because family does get in the way, I feel like sometimes.
Right.
Right? And then how do you navigate through that? Because family can either make your life easy or they can make your life a lot harder if you bring someone they don't approve of, right?
Right.
Which then can create a different dynamic in the household.
Yeah.
So as an Albanian trying to balance the culture aspect of it and trying to get the approval from the parents, how do you navigate through that? And how do you balance those two, right? Does that become an issue then going forward? Because now he's single, but in his back of his mind, he's like, well, will my mom approve of her, right? Will my dad approve of her? And how do you work through that as a single bachelor?
And it starts with you. And I'm sorry, we're just like
No,
looking
it's
at you.
okay. It's
You're
okay.
the guinea
I
pig.
don't
You, the
mind-
rock show,
I don't mind
everyone.
being a scapegoat here.
Rock is single, by the way.
If
FYI.
anyone's interested, DM us.
I don't mind.
Fill
I
in
don't
the
mind being-
applications.
DM
We
Molla
will look through
Entertainment.
it.
No, this is good. I like hearing this.
Yeah, but it starts with you, right? Within yourself, because it's the relationship that you build with the parents and the parts of yourselves that you show your family how they get to know you. No family wants the worst for you. No family wants to make your life hell, right? They're trying to make sure that you are happy and you're good and you make the right choices. But for them, you're always the child. And those life transitions, they're very rare in an Albanian community because I don't think we go through life transitions. You know, it's just
Right.
like the kids are still kids, no matter if they have kids. And there is like this hierarchy that we allow, but it starts with you. If you train your family in your younger age, or like now that you're thinking to be serious and show them the parts of you that are important for you, you're going to have those conflicts now. Conflicts are going to happen. You know, they're going to see you like, yeah, this, I don't know how you became this way and ta 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 ta. But they're going to come to peace and acceptance with time before you introduce your partner. So then you are really like the strong point between your family and your partner. And same for the girls. It's the same relationship, even though the girls' family are a little bit more accepting and receiving because they're very connected to the female. With a male perspective, they tend to push away.
Right.
So the family is even more insecure now. Like, what is this guy thinking? Like, she showed this way, and like we're making sure that she's not using or abusing him and things like that. But if you give them the safety and the security that I know what I'm doing, I got this is who I am, because mom or dad can know us for a different part of us, and our friends know us for a different person, our workers or co-workers know us for a different person, and the partner is almost the only one that will know you for all of your colors and pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, see, like I've dated outside the culture too, and that's always one of those things where like if you date outside the
Ooh.
culture, they automatically don't accept somebody. And it's like, yes, they're accepting of them over time, but you know, it's hard when you get something right at the beginning where they say, "Oh no, we just don't accept them just because they're not Albanian." And it's
But what
like,
happens to you when you walk in the house and you bring someone non-Albanian and like it's scary?
oh, it was a complete scary feeling at that first time, you know, and I'm like,
Why is it scary?
How do I react to this? Because for me, it's like, I'm happy. I understand that I'm happy with this person. They were speaking different languages, whatever the case is, but it's scary because you know, you're kind of supposed to do the right thing and follow the footsteps. Oh, okay, go find an Albanian wife, stay traditional. So when you do something that's completely opposite of what now your older brothers who have been married to Albanian women, and you're doing the complete opposite, now you're really scared because you're like, am I affecting my family in a negative way? Is it like, you don't know
Right.
what you're scared of. Honestly,
Right.
I don't know what I'm scared of, but it's
Right.
more kind of, I guess, just scared of just doing the wrong thing.
You've dated outside
Yeah.
the culture and you've dated within the culture.
Yeah.
Now you're at that age where you are looking to settle down with the woman that you
Yeah.
want, that's going to fit your personality and who you want to grow with. What is that woman right now? When you close your eyes or when you dream about who the mother of your future children will be,
Just the best friend, just somebody who's
like, who is it?
just people who
Well, he
who
doesn't know
are-
that, obviously.
No, he
Right,
has,
but without
he
taking
has
into
to know.
consideration,
He has
yeah.
to know these steps first.
Or he will find out, right?
find out
Like
along the way.
sometimes,
through like you said
other
before,
relationships,
exactly.
because we think like we're gonna
Trial
find
and error.
one or two relationships, and this is who we are in a relationship, but in the next relationship someone else is gonna come and challenge a different part of you.
Yeah.
So that's why it's recommended later on in life to get married or look for someone to settle with, because you're really in relationships. I have 18, 19 years old that come to me and be like, well, but how do I figure out who is the one? You can't figure it out who's the
No,
one
no,
at
you can-
18, 19,
Exactly.
because you really got to go through those experiences,
You're still-
trial and error,
Yeah,
right?
trial and error.
to understand yourself, not to be in a relationship to commit and stabilize and build a family because you're too young, because you don't know a lot of things for yourself. You got to know yourself first. The moment you know yourself first, you will be able to identify the other partner.
That's
what
what-
it look like.
And the longer it takes for you to know yourself, that's the longer it's going to take you to actually be
Right.
able to identify who's the right person for
That's
you.
why I get blown away by like all the older Albanian people that got married at 17, 18 years old. Like my parents, my mom was 17 and a half. My dad was like 20 when they got married. A year later, she had a kid. And it's like, it's such a different world now because you don't see that anymore. So it's amazing to see how they're, some of these older generations can still stay together and fight through these
Right.
battles and up and down, whereas now people are just like, all right, I
Right.
give
But
up.
also
Move on to the next
nowadays we have a
person.
lot of diversity and opportunities. Like if we're talking about our parents back at home, it was very limited. Like the activity, the lifestyle, the social life. Now in Albania, it's very diverse. And imagine the Albanians in New York, since we live here.
But even back then, it used to
Yeah.
be if you were from Durrës, you found from Durrës. If you were from Tiran, you found from
Right.
Tiran.
Or
You know,
if
like,
you had someone
like
like
Kosovo,
in
Kosovo,
Korça
yeah,
and they'll come and
exactly.
travel. And
Right. Like, but you
Yeah.
you didn't see even at that time like intermixing between between different.
Regions.
But also the expectation and the lifestyle, as I said, like I came here when it was 2010, 2011. And even at that time, it was like, yeah, you can go to university, but what are you going to do after? What Albania has to offer to you? Either you're going to become the most moderator on TV and have this life that you're going to have to figure out, or you're just going to finish your college and you're just going to be a stay-at-home mom, because where are you going to work? At a coffee shop? Or
Right.
so it's like, okay, then I guess it's time to find a husband or a wife. But now we are thinking more about careers, personal development. Our mother's generation have empowered us today as females to not depend on men. And that's where it's becoming very hard for Albanian relationships now. Oh, she's not listening to me. I feel like less of a man. But we're doing this work with the females. We're not preparing the men that, hey, this
Thank
is a
you for
transition.
bringing up this
That's a good
topic.
point, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's where a lot of things are being destructive
No,
in
this
between.
is-
We
This
got to
is-
educate the men.
we
I
have
feel,
to-
too.
yes.
To be right.
But,
So if a change will happen, we need both pairs to be trained and expected of this change and allowance, versus like we're doing the work with a female, like don't become like mommy, find a career, don't settle for kids, and do all of these things in your life for yourself so you won't depend on a man. But also telling the man, make sure your wife listens to you. Make sure that you are the man of the house, you're the head of the house, and all of these things. So when me and my husband will come together, our expectations are completely different. So no matter how much we love each other, and love, it's not enough for a lifetime, for a relationship. Like it's different. You can love someone, but maybe you can have a life with someone because they cannot be responsible, or you don't find the language, the communication again.
Right.
So, tell us a little bit about couples that are having problems with their marriage, right? Do you consult them through that? And what are some of the, I guess, trend that you're seeing within that type of issues when people are having troubles in the marriage?
Right. And there are different layers. So it starts with like people who are dating, and it's mostly like people who are not Albanian that have this culture of like, let's go to therapy and like, let's see if we're fit for each other, if we dated for like 5 years. Then we have the couple who just like transitions through the kids being parents, and they don't know how to transition through that. And they think like it's your fault and it's my fault, but we weren't ready. And then it's the couples that have been for 10 plus years together that are having like different problems. So with the couples that have been like for 10 to 15 years together, it's more like the routine, the disconnect, focusing on the problems, focusing on like the goals and doing it for maybe the kids or the business or whatever they have built together. And they leave behind the effect of them. Like we are us first. I'm a female first.
Do you
I
think
need-
so? Do you think all of these electronics, social medias, and all of that is playing a huge role in the disconnect of a lot of relationships?
It is. It is playing a lot of role because a lot of things are being more accessible, and the resources that are finding online, it's very, you lose it because you don't know with who you align the most. Like you have someone who talks about a relationship and says something else, and you're like, yes, this is why it's happening to me, because like you're trying to find an escape or an excuse, or trying to find like the why to your life because you feel bored of your relationship,
Right.
or if your family doesn't make sense to you anymore because you have it. This is your monotony now. Right? It's playing a big role in it. And especially with the younger generation, it's scaring them because we have a lot of people going online and saying, don't get married, or or like it's hard and it's this. And I'm like, oh, I'm really comfortable. Why should I take on responsibilities? It's like, but responsibilities are part of life, either you're with someone or not, either if you have kids or not. And often I hear the couples like, it was our fault. We wanted to have kids. Maybe we shouldn't have kids. And it's like, no, you were handling so good together because I know how to act as my best part of myself around you as my partner, right? But the moment I have kids, that tolerance will be very low, and the kid will bring the true colors of the person you are, the responsibilities you bring in, the emotions, the management part, and then you get frustrated because you cannot hold it anymore together. So the kids are not the problem, really. Or having a kid doesn't save your marriage because it's really going to bring your true colors. If there is a problem, hold on to the kid. You better figure out
Fix
that
the
level.
problems
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
And conflicts will happen. I hear couples all the time that say, hey, can you please help us? We don't want to argue anymore. It's like, that's very unrealistic. Conflicts are part of life. And I have couples that they fear conflict or arguments with each other. And the first part is walking them through and normalizing that conflicts, arguments are part of life. Even with yourself, you fight 2-3 times a day for a shirt or a phone or something. Imagine with your partner or with a family. So really normalizing that conflicts are okay, but we need to learn there's rules of fighting, and people don't know that. And we're like, but still fighting. It's like, yes, but respectfully fighting, no calling names, no downplaying. And I have a husband the other day that says, well, I swear to God, this time I said nothing. I was just like this. But that's a way of communication.
Right.
You are never not communicating. You rolled your eyes. That was disrespectful. That was triggering to your partner.
So if I have to give a tip, since a newly wedded person, you have to be patient. I found that patience is key.
Patience is a virtue.
Yeah. That's my only tip, by the way. Patience. But do you see...
Vice versa.
Patience.
So do you see more women or men coming and asking for therapy? Do you feel like...
Initially-
is there
Or
a
is it the
stigma around
actual
that?
couple?
Right. Initially, it's the female, no matter what culture you are. If it's Albanian, again, it's mostly the female. Rarely it's the husband, unless the husband is given an ultimatum and the husband really wants to keep this together. And they're like, okay, let's go to therapy now.
Yeah, because us, we're more like,
We don't need it. Yeah, we don't
if
need
there's a
it.
problem, it'll
Usually
fix
it's the
itself.
woman who's bringing it to the attention to the
Right.
husband. Like, you need to go to therapy with me, otherwise it's like you said, the
Yeah.
ultimatum.
It's
So
the
it's still like
expressiveness.
originating from the woman.
Yeah, it is the expressiveness because, as I said, maybe the woman is more nurturing. It's more the one who sees or scans before the problems, and the men's they tend to hide and be like, well, it's okay if she did that. Let it go by. And we don't bring it to the table and be like, hey, just because I'm bringing it to the table doesn't mean that you're less than or I don't love you. And the way we can have those hard conversations is really bring up
Right.
to the person what you appreciate about them first, and then bring the but part of it, and having that honest conversation, open, but also it needs to be both of you in a good mood. Because if you're coming home from work and you're tired, and then you will bring up a topic that she's not ready to hear, everything
Yeah.
she went through at work, she's gonna slam
Dump
it on
it
your
on you,
door, right? And
Exactly.
you're gonna feel like I can't ask her anymore about what I felt I was struggling with, and you're gonna try to pretend like we're good. And also another stigma for men is you have to keep it together. You're a man, come on. It's well, in the relationship it's different. We need to share those vulnerable parts with each other. Because if I see you're struggling and you're hiding
Right.
it from me, I can't help you.
And then that just gets the woman even
Yes.
more upset because sometimes that the man is struggling and that they're holding their emotions inside. And if you're gonna have a good relationship together, you should be able to speak freely of your emotions and be vulnerable without feeling you're gonna be judged by your wife.
Yes.
So women in general, as you said, we are more open. We're more empathetic. We're more open to talk about our vulnerabilities, our emotions, and we're more readily available. And again, this is just a general statement because there
Right.
are definitely women that are not like this as well, and there are men who
Are
are
more
in touch.
expressive,
Right.
yeah.
We're just talking about in general.
There's a lot
But
of
we're
our
more
relationship-
open, right?
yeah.
So we're more open to express our
Or trained
feelings
to voice
and-
things out.
and we want to try and get that husband to be free to feel their emotions, to make them feel like they're not alone, because the whole
Right.
point of why they got married is so they're not single, so
Right.
they're not alone, that they have
Yeah.
someone they can rely
It's a
on.
partnership.
Exactly.
It is a
Yeah,
partnership.
do you see when you get into a room with a husband and wife or whatever the couple is, do you see a more tentativeness from the guy, when you try to get them to talk about something, or is it more are they
Reserved.
more reserved, or are they open
Yeah.
about it at first, or do you gradually see that they
There are
start
two
opening?
ways
Yeah.
of it. If we're talking in general, away from Albanian community, because the Albanians are a little bit slightly different, but almost the same.
Mhm.
In general, we have the type that the wife is in and she wants the husband to come in, and the trick to get the husband in is like, come and complain about your wife. Let me know as a professional to fix her. And then they'll be like very expressive husband, like like a whole list. And then you have the other husband that he truly loves his wife, but he stays quiet. And the wife like tries to bring up all the arguments at home, and he'll be like, whatever she wants. And then to her, he's be like, and then we'll take a while that this guy will feel comfortable, because it starts from the safe space. Your partner, either the female or the male, has to provide that safe space for the partner. If I'm not making a safe space for my partner, he's not going to come and talk to me.
Yeah.
He's going to keep it to himself, and vice versa. If I don't feel safe to talk to him, that he's not going to judge me, he's not going to criticize me, he could really like understand where I'm at and maybe not give me the solution, because sometimes I'm not even looking for a solution. It really helps to provide that safe space for the couples. And for the Albanian men, we already have a stigma around mental health,
Yes.
therapy, counseling. Yes, we want to fix the female. And I've seen like couples that the husband is really like, I want the best for her. I don't know how to help her, but please help her. But he's like, but you're part of the problem too.
Right.
And it's a different level of understanding and connecting with the Albanian men. Once you gain their respect, like you earn your chair at the table, then they'll be more open to talk to you. And I think like when I started doing this work, that was my proudest moment. And not from the young young adult man from Albania, but especially from the older ones, because it is a lot from like a 50, 60 years old man being in marriage for so long and thinking like, you already raised a family and done a lot, and like, what you gonna teach me about marriage? And when they see that you could understand, because sometimes it's a lack of understanding I don't get from my wife. You know, she just keeps complaining. I don't know why. I don't understand. And the wife's like, how can you not understand? And then she doesn't understand him. He doesn't understand her. We just leave it like that. The kids come in between and be like, Mom and Dad, just shut up. You're 50, 60 years old. I want to hear you. I have my own problems. And they don't have that room to connect.
Right.
And especially in that age that they have gone through so many things in life, they have grown so much. This is their time to enjoy, you know, to look into each other of what they've built and let go, because the kids have their own journey. Now is the time for us to be again in the honeymoon phase like we were before, and take care of each other, because the kid is not going to come in the middle of the night for you. It's going to come for his partner or kid, because it's a chain. It comes back to you and her in the end.
So, are there any male counselors that can, meaning to get the guy perspective, right? Because I feel like if you have a guy who's a marriage counselor talking to a married couple, you might have a different perspective.
Yes, they are a lot of male counselors, therapists, but I'm trying to think in
Albanian, yeah.
community.
I think that would be interesting though.
That would be an interesting Albanian
Yeah.
guy's perspective on all.
Yeah,
all the
because
marriage
you have the
counseling.
female.
We need to look into it, but I haven't met
perspective, but
anyone.
I think you should hire.
Yeah.
an
If there are any
Albanian-
male
you should hire an Albanian
marriage
male
counselors, DM
counselor.
us as well.
Yes.
Because it'll be good to have you and the Albanian male counselor, both of you
Right.
guys trying to coach, the couple. Because again, I feel like men and women have different when it comes to the way they think and the way they operate. They have
Right.
different, perspectives.
Yeah.
But what's great about therapists, they are actually taught in how to be subjective, and they're going to look at it as a perspective of from the male's point of view and also the female's point of view. So I think
It's hard to look at it from the male perspective if you're not a male, right?
It is, right? So like in therapy, what happens is like I don't give you the solution, or like I come now with this
Right.
book and I say, you know what, the female and the male in the marriage should be like this. Every case is different. And I am one of those therapists that I don't believe in a cookie cutter. And I just take you two as individuals, not like as husband or wife or female and male, but with the presenting problem, you have to help me understand what is it like to be you, and then you have to help me understand what is
Right.
it like to be you, because we're talking here for general and like the 80% of couples or relationships, but there are other relationships that the problems might look completely different.
right, there could be a relationship where the male is quiet, holding everything in and not speaking, and the female is the one who's doing the complaining and talking and all of that. But there are also relationships where it's the opposite, where it's the man who's more vocal and doing a lot of the complaining, and the female is more submissive, timid, and doesn't
Right.
want to express it. So I think it just really depends on the situation.
Right. So it's more like trying to understand you as an individual versus like you as a man or you as a female. And based of that level of understanding, then we can move on. And not only the therapist should understand it, but now the therapist is the middle person to help both of them to understand each other, and like the therapist would reframe or talk to a language or teach them how to speak. That's why the language, and we go down like, okay, what is respect for you and what is respect for you? And sometimes I have couples be like, are you kidding me? Like, are we really going to talk about this? And it's like, well, it starts from basics, because if you quit it and skip the basics, you're not trying to understand the bigger picture.
Do you find that a lot of the issues that couples are coming through, that they're bringing up 10 years from now, like, 10 years into the relationship, 15 years in, that are things that could have been avoided if they were more true and honest from day one when they first met each other and just during that phase of getting to know each other?
Absolutely. And within the Albanian community, I also have couples that the problem started before they got even engaged, but they were like holding it in. So like open and honest and direct communication
From the beginning. So
Right.
that is the
Very
biggest
I
advice
mean,
right
we
here.
were very honest with
From
each other
from the first hour that we started talking.
And
kinda
talking
knew.
about the roles and the expectation, that's
Yeah.
another thing too, because as I said, we both coming with like our own luggages,
Yeah.
towards each other. And I expected to be like my mom, or I expected to be like my father, but we're not talking about this. So when
Right.
the things are happening, it's like, well, I didn't expect you to be like this. And to her or him is like, well, that's how I expected to be in this, or I didn't expect you. So that expectation and the roles that we come, because we have a model we come from, and either we want to apply the model again or we want to change that. And I always tell the couples, think about like a really tiny door that you're trying to walk in together. You both have one luggage, but the door fits only one. So both of you need to pack the most important things, the most non-negotiable things, to pack them in that one
I
luggage
like that a lot.
to get through a door.
Right.
a
If
good
you can't
analogy.
do that, you have to stay at the door and still
Now you
negotiate.
have the foundation set. You
Yeah.
have you understand each other's principles, your values, and from there you can build that family between you, your husband, and hopefully with your
Yeah.
children.
So you opened up your own practice, right?
Yes.
Recently? How long ago was that?
My private practice was 8 months ago
8
in New
months ago.
Jersey.
Okay.
And I'm trying
Congratulations.
to... Thank you.
Congrats.
Very proud
Thank
of you.
you. Thank you. It was a big moment to take that, because seeing as leading New York State on marriage and family therapy and advocating for the policies, the procedures, there's like a lot of gaps. And that's what made me like start my own private practice, where the therapist could really be comfortable and do their own hours and get paid. And also the client can get the quality, because oftentimes in New
The
York,
personal attention.
yeah, we have a lot of clients, a lot of insurance, but not all of them are getting the same service. And the therapist is being burnt out, and it's like all this system. So to me, creating that space for the client and the therapist, it was really big, which we're planning to expand to other
Okay.
therapists, as I like more of like that advocacy, speaking, sharing.
You should get a
So-
male, I'm telling you. It's
Yeah.
going to be a difference. An
Do you
Albanian
deal-
male therapist.
Do you deal more though with like newer relationships, like within a 5-year span, or do you deal more with people that are 20-year relationship, 30-year relationship, and like how different is how your line of work and how you treat those relationships? Is it any different with somebody that's 30 years in and somebody that's 5 years in, or do you use kind of the same
And
overall?
along along that, are they couples that ended up being together from a young age and now they're having problems, or are they later in life? So just to piggyback on that.
Yeah.
So most of the time, what I see in my office is couples that are 10 plus years of marriage, and a higher also percentage is like the ones that just been 5 years in. Rarely you'd see like premarital one or before, and I really appreciate those who really come before, because most of the cases have been like, you're not my person, which is good.
Yeah, at least
And-
they find
Yeah,
that
find
out
out
early.
early.
And then I also
Exactly.
have the couples that they come in and say, hey, we've known each other from a very young age. We always wanted to date, but situations, we've seen and met each other's exes, because it's like we were that friendship we were building. And then we decided to get married, and then living together, we found out we don't want to have this. And we have a deadline. In 2-3 months, we got to make it to the wedding. Should we be together or not?
Hmm.
Which is it's like, if you known each other, what did you think? Because it depends
Right.
on what way you know the other person. But also you have relationships that have been like since very young age, and they're very successful because they have found the language with each other,
And they learn how to grow
support.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's like the common thing that you see in a newer relationship, and then what's a common thing that you see in like a relationship that's been existent now for 20, 30 years? Like, do you see any, like, what's the common thing that you
Similarities,
see,
yeah.
a common issue?
In between both of the
Yeah,
marriages?
just something with like a new relationship. What's a common thing that you see between a new marriage within the first 5, 6 years? And then what's something common that you see with somebody who's been in a relationship over 20, 30 years? Like, what are some common things you
Yeah.
see in those?
So for the people who are like recently married, or like at a younger age of marriage, like 2, 3 years or 5 years, what you see with them is more expectations and falling, and they just like, they're trying to adjust and learning to figure out like how to be with each other. And oftentimes it comes from not knowing yourself. And the couples who are like 20 and plus, it's like more of regrets, mistakes of the past that they have let go of, made a blind eye, and we're here in this situation, or the disconnect.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
And do you usually see a more, like, where do you see the finish line more often? Like, do you help people more, like, that are in those 20-year relationships? Like, do you see more of a, like, oh, yeah, I was able to help them out? Do these people usually come to a conclusion and, all right, yeah, we're going to,
Stay
be
together
better?
or
Yeah.
get divorced.
Yeah.
So the goal of it, because that's a very common question that comes in, is like, hey, help us how to be together. And the goal of therapy is not to keep you together or separated, but to find your own pathway, happiness, alignment. Because you may be with each other for 30 years, and maybe you've let it go so many times that it's time to really go. I've seen couples that one of the partners has really shown physical symptoms of like throwing up or being physically ill because of holding back of all these problems or letting it go. Well, you should have said something like 10 years ago, and it's okay to have a divorce.
So coming to the conclusion of divorce doesn't mean you failed. It means you finally recognize that it's not working, and it is okay to move on and continue your life.
It is. Right. So divorce.
I mean, a lot of people,
yeah.
that's why they stay, because they don't want to, they stay in a relationship because they don't want to admit that, like they
failure
failed.
You're right.
But I don't see it as a failure. If you truly are trying to make it work time after time and it's just not working, divorce.
You can't force it.
Right.
But
You can't
also,
force it.
it's not about you as a person and your accomplishment. It's really about two people, and you can control his part. Right. Or he can control your part, and we grow in different people. Like the time I met you and like we were great. And then 10 years later, I am a different person. I've understood that I need something else, something more, and it's okay to do that. I don't like to normalize divorce for the fact that it's such an easy way of going. A lot of young people now is like, well, if you don't wash the dishes tonight, I'm divorcing you. It's like, hold on, let's talk about it.
That's exactly.
So it's like, yes, normalizing it, but also like it's not a tragedy, but also it's not the only way of doing things. Just because like you didn't, I don't know, lay some flowers for me, I'm going to divorce you. Or just because like you came and slept and not said hi to me, you don't love me. Life, it's long. It
I
has
feel
a lot of
like
things
it's a
in it.
lot easier now. Like people just say, I'm just going to get a divorce.
Because they have the resources and the backups,
Yeah.
and they feel more comfortable and be like, well, if you don't want me, but it's the fear of getting to know yourself. Because like, I can leave you, but my next relationship, it's going to show up again.
Exactly.
What are you going to do
Yeah,
then?
what do you do then at that point?
Right.
Now it really is a personal problem.
Yeah.
So basically, moral of the story is you really got to work on yourself, know who you are.
Exactly.
And your partner has to do the same work for themselves. So this way you guys can work together to see if you guys still work. And if you worked on yourself and he worked on himself and you're still not working, then it's just not the right relationship. It's not the right fit.
Yeah, and it's not it's not about like being the right. It is. This is 100% what you said in every single word. But also, it's not like being with the right fit, because also like we grow together. We have something in therapy that we go by love maps, which is like a check-in with each other. It's like after a while. Sometimes couples have it like every 3 months. Sometimes other couples have it
because people
after
can go through
3
rough
years.
patches. That doesn't mean you're going to get a divorce.
Right, because every day, every second, we change. Like you can go downstairs, you find someone at the Starbucks, it gives you a different perspective, you like it, you bring it home. Now the wife is like, what happened to you? There is something like a change over
You're-
here.
you're different.
Yeah. So we bring those pieces, and like it's okay to
It's
check
always-
in.
you're
and
always working at
to
it.
take the time, have a nice night with a wine, and say, okay, what's your favorite color? And usually with my couples, I share this example of
Naveen, what's
me-
your favorite color?
My favorite color? Green.
green. Did you know that?
I did know that.
But no, obviously we can talk
But
about
what if it changed? I don't know. Like, that's
we can talk about this all day, but give us some tips that you've seen that you can recommend to young couples or couples that have been in a relationship for a long time, just so they can. Then also we want to know, how do they reach out to you, right? How do they contact you to see if they want to get advice in their relationships?
Yeah. So the biggest advice that I can give, even for premarital couples or like young newlyweds or the ones that are in the relationship for years, the first thing is check in with yourself. What is
Okay. I
going
like
on
that.
with you? How are you
How often
feeling?
should they do that?
Anytime they feel like it, because life is about cycles, right? And when you feel like everything is going bad and kind of like you're experiencing the depressive symptoms and nothing is relating or connecting to you, there might be something into it, right?
Right.
And the moment that you check in with yourself to understand yourself first, then I can go to my partner and bring it in. And the layer 2 is understanding, helping each other and being open to receive the other picture from the partner. And the picture is not going to be the same because we both have different realities. That doesn't mean that we're lying. That doesn't mean it's not true. To shut each other out. It's like, help me understand, how did you think of that? It makes sense. And then how do we move forward to that? And the third thing, it's okay to agree to disagree. We're not the same minds, but it's like, how do we negotiate? What can you do and what can I do? Because it is about that. And how to reach out to me, the easier way is become Instagram.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
Tell us what the Instagram.
The Instagram is relationships by Ina.
Okay.
And the other ways is like psychologytoday.com, which is like a little bit more professional about therapists. And through my clinic in New York, Aristotle.
Okay. Well, Lena, thank you for coming. I think we learned a lot today. It was very informative, at least for me. So thank you for being here. We might have you again, in the future. But any last questions for you guys?
I wanted to ask one question, actually. Now you have your practice here.
Yes.
Is this something you plan on maybe going back home in Albania and teaching maybe younger people that want to take on a role like you? Is this something you plan on maybe going back home and doing this for people there too? Or, to maybe create counselors now in Albania that can do, the job you're doing and help people back home? Do you plan on ever doing anything like this in the near future, or?
I have been planning on that past 3 years. So that's why I was smiling when you were bringing it up. There are a few people there that are really great and they're doing the work. They're just trying to put it together. When is this going to come concrete? We're working through it to see.
But I like that approach of
Yeah.
teaching. Now you're creating jobs, opportunities,
Yes,
education,
back home.
teaching, counselors back home. So then, and also we have to normalize that it's okay to get help.
Right. And they are the only ones who can help people in Albania.
Because they really understand
Yeah.
what they're going
Yes.
through. It is different than us Albanians from America. Like we
Yeah.
have a lot of similarities, but there's also differences as
Yeah.
well.
With Albania and Kosovo, I know it's tough to get anybody to probably have any types of conversations within each other. So I feel like building some sort of thing like that where you can teach maybe young kids that are in college, like you said, there's no, you go to a university there and you don't know what you're going to end up doing. Whereas now they can go to university and become a,
Yeah.
you have the same
therapist.
background as you now and they can help people. So I feel like that would be cool if you were able to go back home and
Well, it's coming
Yeah,
on the
nice.
soon.
Ina,
All right.
nice.
thank you so much for coming to our show today.
Yeah, we appreciate
Telling
it.
us, us learning more about you, of who you are, your journey, how you came here, and just your life mission. Definitely needed, and I'm just very grateful for you to be on the show.
No, thank
Yep.
you. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you
I
for coming.
appreciate it.
Hopefully I can find me a relationship and not have to go to
DM
We'll
us if
work
you're
on it.
interested.
We're
Fucking
going to
single
start a
woman.
dating show, guys,
Yeah, right.
FYI. So
Right.
Rag is going to be the first sample
Yeah.
of the dating show.
She'll be live therapist on the show at the same
Actually,
time.
that would be
taking
perfect.
applications.
Moderate.
That'd be great.
We love it.
Moderate of the questions.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
guys. It was a
We'll
pleasure.
catch you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.